It was a cold winter morning when we moved into Diane's spacious two-story house. I remember looking around, thinking how lucky we were to be offered such a generous helping hand. "Megan, isn't this wonderful? Mom's house is big enough for all of us, and Lily will have so much space to play," Jason said as he unloaded our things. I nodded, holding our little Lily close to me. "It's a kind gesture, Jason. It'll help us, especially with Lily's condition and my work." Diane appeared at the door, smiling. "I hope you'll be comfortable here. I thought it'd be easier for Lily and, well, for all of us to be together." "Thank you, Diane. It means a lot to us," I replied, genuinely grateful. The first few weeks seemed perfect. Diane would sometimes cook our favorite meals, and Jason would often return from work with a bright smile, knowing we were all under one roof. But as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I began to feel a change in the air. One day, while I was on my laptop in the living room, working on an important project, Diane walked in, commenting, "Another day of leisure for you, huh?" I was taken aback. "I'm working, Diane." She chuckled. "Staring at a screen isn't work, dear. In my time, work meant getting your hands dirty." Before I could reply, Jason walked in. "Mom, Megan's job is different, but I get it. It's hard to understand." I thought he was defending me, but his tone hinted otherwise. Later that evening, when Lily was in bed, I tried talking to Jason. "Did you mean what you said earlier? About my job being hard to understand?" He shrugged. "I mean, you're always at home. It does look like you have a lot of free time." I was taken aback. "Jason, just because I work from home doesn't mean I'm not working. My job is demanding." He sighed. "Look, I didn't mean it that way. It's just, different." That night, I lay in bed, reflecting on the changes. It wasn't just Diane's passive-aggressive comments or Jason's growing indifference. It was the house. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. What I once saw as a haven was now becoming a cage. Days blended into each other, and the undercurrent of tension grew. Diane's snide remarks about my hobby job became a daily affair, and Jason seemed more distant than ever. "Mom's right, You're always on that computer. Do you even see what's happening around the house?" Jason once commented after dinner. I tried to reason with him. "Jason, this is my job. I earn from it, and it helps us maintain our lifestyle." He simply scoffed. "Yeah, right." The house that once echoed with laughter and joy now felt cold and unwelcoming. The illusion of the home sweet home was shattered. One Friday evening, after tucking Lily into bed, I decided to take a look at our joint bank account. Jason and I had always maintained transparency in our finances, pooling our incomes and sharing expenses. The routine check was just to ensure that we were sticking to our savings plan, especially with the mounting medical expenses for Lily. However, as I logged into our account, I felt a knot forming in my Jason Ack. The available balance was much lower than I expected. Curious, I clicked on the statement to see a list of transactions. My eyes widened as I saw several large withdrawals for Party Central and numerous purchases from Shop on Couch Premium Package. I felt a mix of confusion and anger. Pulling out a notepad, I quickly jotted down the figures. Over the past few months, there had been a substantial drain on our savings, and none of it was for household expenses or Lily's medical needs. The next morning, I approached Jason. "We need to talk about our account." He looked up from his cereal. "What about it?" "We've been spending a lot more than we budgeted for. And what's this Party Central and Shop on Couch Premium Package?" I asked, showing him the figures I jotted down. "Oh, that," he replied nonchalantly. "The guys and I have been going out on Fridays. Just to relax and unwind. It's nothing big." "And the shopping channel?" I pressed on, trying to keep my voice steady. Diane, overhearing our conversation, stepped into the room. "Oh, that's just some stuff I ordered. I saw some nice things on TV." "But we can't afford these right now," I said, trying to reason with them. Diane snapped back. "It's just a few things, Megan. Why are you overreacting?" "I'm not overreacting," I retorted. "We have shared expenses, and we need to save for Lily's needs. We can't spend recklessly." Jason sighed. "Look, I need some time with my friends, and Mom likes those TV products. What's the big deal? It's not like you don't spend." "I spend on essentials," I shot back, "not on parties and unnecessary things." Diane scoffed. "You make it sound like we're burning through cash. It's not a crime to indulge once in a while." "But every week?" I exclaimed, my voice raising. The room was thick with tension. Neither Jason nor Diane seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. Our savings, which were meant to ensure a secure future for Lily and us, were being frittered away. It was clear that our views on finances were vastly different. Diane's careless spending and Jason's nonchalance were alarming. I realized that the promise of a shared future based on mutual understanding and respect was beginning to crumble. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust and shared responsibilities. I walked away, feeling more isolated than ever. The reality of our situation was becoming clearer by the day, and the once harmonious house was now filled with discord and resentment. One evening after work, I decided to treat myself to something I hadn't done in a long time: shopping. I headed to a nearby boutique, and after browsing for a bit, I spotted a gorgeous dress. It was simple yet elegant, perfect for an upcoming work event. As I checked the price tag, I hesitated for a moment. It was slightly over my usual budget for clothing. But then, I thought of the hard work I'd put in, the hours spent on projects, and the recent bonus I'd received. I deserved this. Feeling a sense of joy I hadn't felt in a while, I purchased the dress and headed home, excited to show Jason and hoping it would bridge the growing gap between us. However, my excitement quickly faded when I walked into the living room. Diane and Jason were sitting on the couch, engrossed in a TV show. I cleared my throat. "Hey, look what I got for the work event next week." As I pulled out the dress, Diane's eyes immediately zeroed in on the price tag. "That seems expensive," she remarked. "It's a bit more than usual, but it's for a special event," I explained, hoping for some support from Jason. But Jason just looked at the dress and said, "Did we really have the money for this?" Feeling cornered, I replied, "It's for my bonus. I thought it'd be okay." Diane scoffed. "After making such a fuss about our expenses, you go and buy this?" Jason chimed in. "Mom's right. You lecture us about saving and then go on a shopping spree?" "It's just one dress, Jason," I exclaimed, my voice rising. "I work hard too. Can't I treat myself once in a while?" Diane's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Sure, while the rest of us tighten our belts." The joy I had felt moments ago was now replaced with humiliation and anger. I couldn't believe that after all the reckless spending on their part, they were criticizing me for one purchase. I retreated to our room, clutching the dress, feeling more alone than ever. The dress, which was meant to be a symbol of my accomplishments, now felt like a burden. Lily's health had always been fragile, and on this particular week, she came down with a high fever. I took some days off work to care for her, but on Thursday, I received an urgent call. My boss needed me in the office for an essential presentation. I was in a dilemma. I couldn't leave Lily alone. I approached Diane, hoping she would understand. "Diane, I have a request. Can you please watch over Lily Jason Oro? I have a crucial meeting at work." Diane looked up from her magazine, clearly annoyed. "Again? Why can't you handle your work without leaving your sick child?" "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important," I pleaded. She sighed dramatically. "Fine, but just this once." Relieved, I thanked her and went to inform Jason about the plan. "Diane has agreed to watch Lily Jason Oro. Can you come home early just to make sure everything's okay?" Jason, who was scrolling through his phone, seemed distracted. Sure, I'll try." The next day, as I was getting ready for work, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Diane. "Sorry, dear. My friends just called. They want to meet up. I can't watch Lily today." Panicking, I called Jason. "Can you come home? Diane can't watch Lily." There was a long pause before he replied, "Megan, I can't. I've got a lot going on today." "Diane promised she would, and now she's bailing. I need your help," I implored. He sighed. Okay. I'll leave work early, but you owe me one." Relieved, I quickly got dressed and left for work. Hours later, as I was wrapping up the presentation, I received a call from the school's nurse. "Mrs. Johnson, Lily's fever has spiked. She's in a lot of distress." My heart raced. "I'll be there right away." When I arrived at the school, the sight of my little girl, flushed and in tears, broke my heart. I wrapped her in my arms and tried to soothe her. Why wasn't she at home? Where was Diane or Jason? I thought furiously. Upon reaching home, I found the house empty. Hours later, Jason strolled in, the smell of alcohol strong on his breath. "Where were you?" I demanded. Jason blinked in confusion. "What? I told you I'd come home early, but the guys wanted to hang out. So..." "You promised," I shouted. "Lily was alone and unwell. Do you even care?" Diane entered the scene, looking displeased. "What's all this noise?" "Lily was left alone. She was sick, and neither of you were there," I cried, holding back tears. Diane rolled her eyes. "You always make a scene. She's just a kid, she'll bounce back. I was at my wit's end. This is not a home, I whispered, my voice breaking. I can't do this anymore. Jason looked taken aback. What are you saying? I'm saying this isn't working. We need to make changes, I said, my voice firm. The room was thick with tension. Diane looked smug, while Jason seemed confused. As for me, it was clear. This was the breaking point. Things had to change. The days that followed were filled with introspection. Seeing Lily so vulnerable had shaken me deeply, and I spent hours contemplating our future. The house was eerily quiet, the tension palpable. Diane kept her distance, while Jason seemed to be constantly avoiding any conversation. One evening, as I was sitting in my room, there was a soft knock at the door. It was Lily. She climbed onto the bed beside me, her tiny face solemn. Mommy, why is everyone so sad? I took a deep breath, holding back my tears. Sometimes adults have disagreements, sweetie. She hugged her teddy bear tighter. I don't like it. I want everyone to be happy. Her innocent words struck a chord. I realized I had to make a change, not just for my well-being, but for Lily's future. The next morning, I met with a lawyer to discuss the possibility of a divorce. As we spoke, it became evident that while the journey wouldn't be easy, it was necessary. A few days later, I mustered up the courage to talk to Jason. We need to talk, I began, my voice shaking. He looked up from his laptop. About? Us. This situation, I replied, motioning around the house. He sighed. Not this again. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Jason, I've decided to file for divorce. He looked at me, stunned. You're overreacting. We just hit a rough patch. It's more than that, I replied, my voice firm. I can't raise Lily in this environment. She deserves better. He looked away. So you're just giving up on us? I'm choosing what's best for Lily and me. There was a long pause before he finally spoke. Fine, if that's what you want. I nodded. It's what's needed. The following week, as I was packing our belongings, Diane entered the room. She looked at the boxes and scoffed. Running away? I looked at her. Starting fresh. She smirked. You think you'll manage on your own? For Lily, I'll manage anything, I replied with determination. Diane just huffed and left the room. The day we moved out was emotional. The house that once held dreams and promises was now just a painful reminder of what was lost. As I locked the door for the last time, I looked back, a mix of sadness and hope in my heart. Lily held my hand. It'll be okay, right, Mommy? I smiled at her. Yes, sweetie, we'll be just fine. Our new apartment was cozy and small, nestled in a quiet neighborhood. I remember the first night we moved in. Boxes were strewn everywhere, and I had just managed to set up Lily's bed. As we lay there, listening to the sounds of the city outside, she whispered, I like it here, Mommy. I kissed her forehead. Me too, sweetie. It's our new beginning. The next few weeks were busy. I juggled work and setting up our new home, making sure Lily felt settled and secure. My work colleagues were supportive, especially my boss, who often checked in to see how we were doing. One evening, as I was making dinner, there was a knock on the door. Opening it, I was met with the smiling face of our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. A kind elderly lady, she held out a freshly baked pie. Thought you two could use a warm welcome. I smiled, touched by her gesture. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. That's really sweet. She winked. Just call me June. And anytime, dear. The community around us was warm and welcoming. Slowly, the shadows of our past began to fade as Lily and I got involved in various activities. Lily joined a dance class and made new friends, while I discovered a local book club where I met like-minded individuals. One evening, as Lily and I sat on our balcony, she looked up at me. Mommy, do you think Daddy misses us? The question took me by surprise. I sighed, choosing my words carefully. I'm sure he does, in his own way. She nodded. I sometimes miss the big house. I pulled her close. But do you like it here? She smiled. Yes, I have new friends, and Mrs. Patterson gives me cookies. We both laughed. Life wasn't without its challenges. Managing finances, ensuring Lily's needs were met, and balancing work was tough. But I took each day as it came. I began to get a grip on our expenses, started saving, and even dabbled in some investments. My background in finance certainly came in handy. One day, I received a call from an old college friend, Mark. Megan, it's been ages. How have you been? We chatted for a while, catching up on old times. Mark was now part of a startup, and they were looking for investors. The project seemed promising, and after some thorough research, I decided to invest. To my surprise, the venture took off, and the returns were beyond my expectations. Suddenly, our financial situation changed for the better. But more than the money, it was the sense of accomplishment that meant the world. One evening, June invited us over for dinner. As we sat around her dining table, she looked at me with a twinkle in her eye. "You've done well, Megan. I admire your strength." I smiled. "Thank you, June. It's been a journey." She nodded. "And it's just the beginning." Looking at Lily, who was busy with her dessert, I realized she was right. We had faced our fair share of challenges, but we had also found our path. This was, indeed, a new beginning. A few months after my new beginning, life had found a rhythm, and every day felt like a blessing. Then, out of the blue, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in a while. Jason. "Hello, Jason," I greeted cautiously. "Megan." His voice sounded odd, a mix of false cheer and underlying desperation. "How have you been?" "I've been well, thanks. And you?" I asked, more out of politeness than genuine interest. There was a pause. "I've been thinking, Megan. Maybe we were too hasty in our decisions. What do you say about giving us another chance?" I was taken aback. "Why now?" He hesitated. "Well, I've heard things are going well for you financially. We could support each other, you know." The implication was clear. I remembered the joint account and how my earnings were treated as our money, while his wasteful expenditures were never discussed. I decided to play along. "How's Lily? Have you been keeping tabs on her health?" "Oh, she's your responsibility now, isn't she?" He replied dismissively, confirming my worst suspicions. "Look, Megan, Mom and I have had some bad luck. We've burned through our savings and have some debt." "So, you thought you'd return to the safety net you abandoned?" I replied coldly. He tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, Megan. Families stick together, right?" "Not when the family abandons one of their own," I retorted. There was silence on the line. "So you won't consider my offer?" "Jason, you've made your choices, and I've made mine. I've learned my worth, and it's not as a safety net for someone who never valued me." The city skyline was a mesmerizing sight from the expansive windows of my new office. With a recent promotion, I had moved to the top floor, and the view was symbolic of how far I'd come. My work, once dismissed as mere internet stuff, was now at the forefront of the company's operations. A chime from my computer alerted me to a new email, and I was pleased to find it was a congratulatory note from the CEO on the success of my latest project. While I was immersed in my work, my colleague, Jenny, walked in with a cheeky grin, holding a tablet. "Have you seen this, Megan?" It was a local news article. My ex-husband's face was on it, along with a story about the foreclosure of their house due to mounting debts. The article mentioned how he had spiraled after our divorce, with lavish spending habits that he could no longer maintain. Jenny raised an eyebrow. "Didn't see that coming, did you?" I sighed. "No one should have to go through that, but he made his choices." "Heard he's lost most of his friends too. Apparently, he can't finance their Friday night parties anymore." That didn't surprise me. Those friends were around only for the good times, drawn to the allure of freebies and luxurious parties. "Anyway," Jenny changed the topic, "heard you're being considered for another project? The European expansion?" I nodded, smiling. "Yes, I'm prepping for it. It's going to be challenging but exciting." Jenny left, and I took a break, stepping out onto the balcony attached to my office. The breeze felt calming, and as I looked down, I saw the coffee shop where I had last seen my ex-mother-in-law. She was animatedly talking to her circle of friends, probably recounting embellished tales about how heartless I was, not extending a helping hand to them in their time of need. I could have felt bitter or angry, but I didn't. I had shed the weight of their toxic influence, and now I was soaring, both professionally and personally. That evening, as I picked up Lily from her after-school class, her teacher, Mrs. Allen, approached me. "Megan, I must say, Lily's resilience and strength are commendable. She's an excellent student and a joy to have in class." "Thank you, Mrs. Allen. She's my rock," I replied, beaming with pride. As we drove home, Lily chatted about her day. "Mom, we learned about caterpillars turning into butterflies today. They go through so much change." I smiled at her. "Yes, and sometimes change is necessary to become something beautiful.